Shalom, everyone. I'm Brother Doug with my mom, sister Sharon, and Brother Yahusha's with us. I think our sister Marissa should be back soon. I think she just might have to handle something briefly. So we're going to be studying Proverbs 1 to 3 today. I apologize, all you guys out there. I meant to do this study like really at least a month or two ago when we were in First Kings. I meant to do it when we were talking about Solomon and the temple and that, but that's my bad on that. So from Genesis all the way to Second Kings. So now we're going to see, we're going to see um, about reading from Proverbs 1. See, this is why I wanted to take the stupid notifications off, because Mom, that thing is, your Pinterest is going to go crazy off the hook all day long. Yeah, I hate notifications on the Sabbath like that. Okay. All right, so guys, also let us know how this works out. Right now I'm trying a tethering connection today between the peer-to-peer phone to laptop Wi-Fi connection. So just let me know if it's not up to par. You who are willing will just use my hotspot next time. I'm just trying this out because it's supposed to be better. Um, you know, for just not, if you're not broadcasting, you really shouldn't use hotspot. You shouldn't really need to use hotspot. Really, for me, the broadcasting is what screws up my Wi-Fi. It's too much bandwidth and all that jazz. So that's what happens. Why I need to use hotspot usually on the YouTube live and all that. The broadcasting takes up way too much bandwidth and all that. So hopefully, with this being a recording to the cloud, and you guys are going to see it uploaded later, this should be fine. So just anyone on YouTube later, if we don't sound clear, we're not coming in clear, let me know. I'm also going to try to connect my external microphone at some point. So, Mom, I see you're already opened up. Do you want to start us off?
Sure.
Let's see here. Let's see here. Proverbs 1.
I actually was going to read
For the ISR?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me put the ISR for them on the screen so they can follow along from what you're reading from. So my mom's going to read from the TS 2009. So let me just pull that up. So this little click pad is acting up lately on my laptop here. That's why it takes me sometimes a little while to drag stuff. Okay. All right. Okay. So
The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, sovereign of Yisrael, for knowing wisdom and discipline, for understanding the words of understanding, for receiving the discipline of wisdom, righteousness, right ruling, and straightness, for giving insight to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. The wise one hears and increases learning, and the understanding one gets wise counsel. For understanding a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and discipline. My son, heed the discipline of your father, and do not forsake the Torah of your mother, for they are a fair wreath on your head and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not give in. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood, let us ambush the innocent without, let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and entirely like those going down to the pit. Let us find all precious goods Let us fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they hurry to shed blood. For in vain the net is spread in the sight of any that possess a wing. But they lie in wait for their own blood. They ambush their own lives. Such are the ways of everyone greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owners. Wisdom calls aloud outside. She raises her voice in the broad places. At the head of the noisy streets, she cries out. At the openings of the gates in the city, she speaks her words. How long, you simple ones, would you love simplicity? And shall scoffers delight in their scoffing, and fools hate knowledge? Turn at my reproof. See, I pour out my spirit on you. I make my words known to you. Because I called and you refused, I have stretched out my hand and no one inclined. And you spurned all my counsel and would not yield to my reproof. Let me also laugh at your calamity, mock when your dread comes. When your dread comes like a storm, and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you. Let them then call on me, but I answer not. Let them seek me, but not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of Yahuwah. They did not accept my counsel, they despised all my reproof. Therefore, let them eat the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own counsels. For the turning away of the simple destroys them. But whoever listens to me dwells safely and is at ease from the dread of evil.
Okay. All right. So see something here. The whole time, right? Wisdom talking the whole time. From like once you get to like verse 20 on, yeah. Wisdom calls outside, raises his voice in the broad places. So it's talking about the person wisdom is calling. So what I find interesting is at the end here, we have a little oneness tidbit here where Yahusha says, since you did not heed my reproof, I'm gonna laugh at your calamity. And let them call on me, but I answer them not. Let them seek me, but not find me. What's interesting is you see the Father saying this in the book of Isaiah. You see Yahuwah saying this in Isaiah. Go seek out your diviners, your soothsayers. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You didn't want to heed my heed to my reproof. Go ahead. I'm not going to listen to you now. Your cries now. So, for people that might be thinking this sounds mean or evil, Yahuwah, just like he created man in his image, us men have a breaking point. Yahuwah has a breaking point, and it's not evil. He has a point where he's done, and he's like, all right, you don't want to listen to me. I've called you to repentance so many times. All right, whatever, save yourself now. And it's not evil. So this is part of the problem, is that we don't know Yahuwah's character. This is part of his character, is that you keep mocking at his reproof. Hey, he's going to leave you to your own devices. You keep not wanting to listen. So,
and the truth is, there is many, many, many times he came to them, even when they were apostate. You can read through the whole book of Judges. Every time after being so them, it's, as a matter of fact, I find it amazing all throughout that time period how he is with them. But there does come, like you say, an end to that. And we have to remember that there are, he is going to come to the end of it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so anyway.
Yeah. So, let's see here what we got here. We got verse 29. Just want to say this real quick before Brother Yahusha, I see he's got his hand up. I'll just say this right before he jumps in. There's a main difference in verse 29, huge difference. It says they hated knowledge, they did not choose the fear of Yahuwah. Now, the Septuagint says they hated wisdom and did not choose the word of Yahuwah. So it's equating Debar Yahuwah, the word of Yahuwah, the person, as wisdom. So this shows that wisdom is not a she. It has to be a he because Yahushua is a he. Okay. Yahushua is the word. So this is showing that he is wisdom. And so anyway, go ahead, brother.
Correct. You would. Um, Going back to you were touching on 27. Just kind of going back to, or was no, you were 20 going back to 23 a little bit, touching on the oneness, where it says, "Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you." Just knowing that we're immersed into one spirit, and in other places you have Yahuwah saying, "I will pour out my spirit upon you." Like, and this is saying, "I will pour out my spirit unto you. I'll make known my words unto you." It has to be Yahuwah here. It has to be Yahusha here. It has to be one and the same because there's only one spirit that's poured out. So
Mhm.
Yeah, what's interesting is that the Septuagint says, I will instruct you in my speech. So it's actually saying we will be instructed by the word,
right,
that Yahusha will be our master. He's instructing us. So the Masoretic kind of leaves it vague, like, I will make known my words, plural, to you. It kind of leaves it vague. I wonder if that's more of a English problem than the Masoretic problem, because I've seen a lot of times where the plural and the singular with the Hebrew gets confusing. And I noticed that, like, usually they phrase it as words plural, so it takes away from it being a person. In the Masoretic, it's just talking about utterances or his debar, his speech, which is kind of interesting. It says, I will instruct you in my speech. So kind of like how the Targums a lot of times will say, this covenant is between me, my word, and you. Or
I
it
guess.
will it will kind of make like the word the subject and the word of Yahuwah the subject, and then it's you're being instructed actually by that word. So I just find that kind of interesting there. If it's trying to present the word of Yahuwah as a person here in the Septuagint, rather than just vaguely, because I can see some people arguing, especially Jewish people arguing, oh, it just says, I will make my words, my commandments known to you, or my utterances known to you. Because
I
I could
guess
see them saying that.
as an English speaker, I could see that. However, if I was to if I saw known, like, I will make my knowns word, or make my words known to you, coming from like a Hebrew mindset,
Yeah.
like, know is if know is to be intimate with, then to be intimate with instructions or intimate with words would be, that you would have to kind of be instructed in them to be intimate with them. That makes sense.
I find it interesting that the Septuagint seems to be a little bit more specific in that verse. It's kind of interesting. I wonder what the Peshitta would say in this verse. Let me see here. Uh, where do I have that Aramaic? Where is okay. All right, never mind. I was gonna look up in Boucher's Psalms to see if it agrees with the Septuagint or what have it. But anyway, yeah. So 24 was big to me. It says was like a big verse that spoke out to me. Because I have called you, refused to listen, and have stretched out my hand, and no one has heeded. So this is even more talking about Yahusha here versus the prior verse that Brother Yahusha is talking about. This is even more talking about him. It's literally saying, I stretched out my hand to you and no one listened. So, and you can go to other places like Isaiah where it talks about to whom has the arm of Yahuwah been revealed. Obviously, it's talking about Yahusha as the arm. Okay. I've stretched out my hand and no one has heeded. Interesting that the Septuagint doesn't have it reading that. That's kind of interesting. So the Masoretic actually has more in that verse than the Septuagint. It says, since I called, you did not hearken. I spoke at length, and you gave no heed. That's like a one rare occurrence where the Masoretic shows Yahusha, where the Septuagint just leaves him out in verse 24 there. That's kind of interesting. I wonder if the ESV is pulling from the Dead Sea Scrolls or something. Because I've seen them do this before. They'll pull from like a manuscript, like either the Dead Sea Scrolls, or sometimes they'll every once in a while use the Peshitta. Because this seems like I don't even think the Vulgate has this extra thing here. I stretched out my hand and no one has heeded. Does yours say that in verse 24?
Inclined, I think it says.
But it says hand?
Give me a second. My hand and no one inclined.
That's interesting. So the Masoretic has it, Vulgate doesn't, Septuagint doesn't. This is like an anomaly here. Usually I don't catch this. Go ahead, brother.
Oh no, as soon as you're done, I was gonna move to another verse.
Oh yeah, I was just finishing up there. Just I find it ironic that the Masoretic has Yahusha in the verse that the others don't. That's all. So, what did you want to bring up?
Which verse?
It was verse 24 where the other versions leave out stretched out my hand. Stretched out my hand, no one has heeded. So the stretched out my hand is not in the other versions.
It's funny.
The Vulgate does. My bad. I misspoke. The Septuagint doesn't for some reason. I don't know what happened with the Breton's version. I don't know if he screwed up, but the Vulgate and the Masoretic do. But go ahead.
I wonder if it. I wonder if it wasn't. Never mind. The fact that it's in the Vulgate. I was gonna say. I wonder if Yahuwah made the Masoretes added in as a witness against them for rejecting Yahushua.
Yeah, I mean the Vulgate also was based on a later Hebrew text. That's the ironic part too, is that it's supposed to be based on a like first century reproduction, not even the original Hebrew. So yeah, it's very possible he could have even allowed those that would have done that Hebrew manuscript that the Vulgate used, that he would have made them add that in as a witness, because they definitely were changing things. The Vulgate is similar to the Septuagint, but there's nuances where it seems to show they're already taking stuff out in the first century. So it's very possible, like you said, Yahuwah he made them add it in, just like Isaiah 9:6 is way more pro Yahusha in the Masoretic than the Septuagint. Even in the Targums, it's more pro Yahusha. So it seems like Yahuwah on purpose caused them to do that as like a witness against them, to say you have it right there in your own version. and you're rejecting what my word says in your own version that you trust in. So yeah.
It
Yeah, that's the
seems
two. Oh, go ahead.
it seems like verse 7 in the Masoretic, in my opinion, is teaching Gnosticism versus the Septuagint version. Also missing a lot in the Masoretic. The Masoretic has fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of knowledge, whereas the other versions had the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of Chokmah.
Yeah. What's interesting is the Vulgate does not translate as that. I think it's just it's a bad translation. Whoever did the ESV did a bad translation because if they're using the same basis, the Vulgate has beginning of wisdom. So I'm wondering if they just screwed up.
All the other Masoretic versions have the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning.
Chakma maybe both times.
No, all the Masoretic versions have the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of knowledge
Huh.
instead of wisdom.
So that means what if they had
You're cutting in and out.
Masoretic, they would have started changing stuff like that. So they would have changed wisdom into knowledge because the Vulgate even has wisdom. So if that's being correctly translated, the prior Hebrew of the Vulgate is agreeing with the Septuagint here, and so that's really, and like you said, to promote Gnosticism or Kabbalism, the idolatry of knowledge. Fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Yeah, the Septuagint, by the way, like Brother Yahusha is saying here, is really the only version that has the rest of this here. So it's supposed to continue on and say, which is actually, by the way, oh no, this is not the verse I'm thinking of. Chapter 9 is the verse I'm thinking of where Paul quotes from. Fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom, and to understanding to all that practice it. Reverence or piety toward Yahuwah is the beginning of discernment. But the wicked will set at nothing wisdom and instruction.
I think you're muted. You there?
Hello?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I my connection might have been unstable for a second there. So yeah, so there's a lot missing in the other versions of this, um, about practicing it, not just having wisdom or obtaining it, but practicing it, that it only benefits you if you practice it. And then obviously reverence towards Yahuwah is the beginning of discernment, which, by the way, fear is not the same thing as piety. Piety is like a reverent type of fear. It's not exactly the same thing.
No,
Like terror and reverence, not the same thing.
no.
And reverence for Yahuwah.
Mm-hmm.
To a certain extent, we should also have like just regular fear for him. But there's we should also have reverence. So they're not the same thing. Very weird because it's like they translated two words for understanding. Well, what verse was that? The understanding of understanding.
Let me just see. I know the one you're referring to.
It sounded very redundant.
Yeah. Let me just see here. This is in 5. The wise one hears and increases learning, and the understanding one gets wise counsel. For understanding a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did sound a little ridiculous.
The words of the wise and their riddles. Okay, so we're trying to see where they're getting understanding of understanding. Let the wise hear, increase in learning. The one who understands obtain guidance. That makes a little bit more sense. For by hearing these, a wise man will be wiser, and a man of understanding will gain direction. See, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. I think sometimes the ISR, like they try to simplify it a little too much, and then it becomes like, a little redundant there. I think that's what happened. I don't think they meant to, but they kind of like made it sound
The
redundant.
NIV is a little better, in my opinion.
Yeah, it depends on the word they're looking at, why they translate both words as understanding. I'm trying, unless they're the same exact word twice, maybe that's why. But other than that, I can't really rationalize why they would translate it like that.
Well, the NIV uses the word discerning
Yeah,
in verse 5.
direction, guidance.
Yeah,
same
right.
thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that did I notice that? That
What the
seems a little
heck? The
weird.
Vulgate's got something weird here. The intelligent shall possess governments. That's interesting. I wonder if there's an agenda there with the Catholic Church, because that is a weird way to phrase verse 5 there. By listening, the wise shall become wiser, and the intelligent shall possess governments.
Huh.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if that's them trying to include, combining assembly and state together.
Yeah.
The Catholics would believe in, yeah, I kind of wonder if that was added in there, because that seems something very weird to have. I don't think it originally was in there. Uh, yeah, I don't know. That's strange. That's a strange phrase there. The intelligent shall possess governments. The only time we see that in scripture about possessing the government, it's not us, it's Yahusha possessing, the government being on his shoulders. So that's the only time you see that. As far as this would actually make people believe that if you're smart enough, you can control the government. That's the way people would interpret that. The intelligence shall possess governments. So, like, almost like you're scheming to trick the government or to possess it even. So it's a little strange, there. So, but verse 7 is a big deal. I'm trying to remember if there's another verse in this where it talks about where Paul quotes from. I really think though that's chapter 9 though that I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
well, chapter 12, verse 9, I think. Or I'm sorry, 9, verse 10. No, Doug, I'm sorry. Chapter 9, verse 10. You muted.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of, that I get confused with 1 verse 7 for some reason. That this is where Paul gets the understanding of what a sound mind is. So, like, I think it's 2 Timothy 1:7, where it talks about you did not give us a spirit of fear, but a character of a sound mind, or to have a sound mind. And right here it says, for to know the law is the character of a sound mind. So when Paul's talking about he hasn't given us a spirit of fear, you have to take into context where he's quoting from. And he's obviously talking about having the knowledge of the Torah is a character of a sound mind. If you don't know the law, it's impossible. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. But yeah. But yeah, I really recommend people that are going to us with these readings. I recommend really using like the Septuagint for Proverbs. You're going to see a major difference in when you start really going into Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. There's some like really, really off areas. I mean, you did see one time where the Masoretic and the Vulgate sound better, that are more pro Yahusha, but that's like a few far in between places you'll see that. So yeah, so we're now at Proverbs chapter 2, I believe. Let's see here. And like I said, if anyone, I know Brother Yahush is the only other person that would be hearing us, but when this gets uploaded later, guys, just let me know if we're not sounding okay. Because we can always change and put it on hotspots. So just let me know. So I think I'll read for us. Let's see here. My son, if you will receive utterance of my commandment and hide it with you. So I'm reading from the Bretons, everyone. I'm reading from the Septuagint here. Your ears shall hearken to wisdom. You shall apply your heart to understanding. Shall apply it to the instruction of your son. For if you shall call to wisdom and utter your voice for understanding, if you shall seek it as silver and diligently search it for as treasures. See, this is why I wanted to put a compare view on here, because I think there's going to be times where stuff's going to be missing here. So let's see. Let's do ESV, Vulgate. Okay, so if you will seek. Now, this again, her is not supposed to be there, as you can see here. Okay, so that's another issue. Those of you guys that follow this ministry, you guys have probably already heard us preach about this, the whole false feminine divine that translators try to insert into the scriptures and all that, and sometimes certain manuscripts try to insert into it. So if you guys have not heard about that, I would refer you to our playlist, the the divine feminine deception exposed. We have a whole playlist on the YouTube page where you can go to that. I would recommend watching Who is the Wisdom study we did recently, and also kind of like a prequel to that was Who is the Queen of Heaven? Does Yahuwah have a celestial wife? So I recommend watching those two studies to understand what I just referenced. If you then shall you understand the fear of Yahuwah and find the knowledge of Eluah. For Yahuwah gives wisdom from his presence, knowledge and understanding. What's interesting I find here is that his mouth in the Masoretic as his presence.
Right.
And I think that was on purpose because later on in Jewish theology, they would say, oh, the Shekinah glory, his presence. I think Yahuwah did this on purpose with the Septuagint translators to show that Yahusha is his presence, is his esteem, that Yahusha is his celestial presence. Go ahead, brother. I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
You just kind of choppy in and out.
Okay. All right. Let me see here. See here if I can. All right, screw the Ethernet then. That's definitely not going to help then. Yeah, I figured that. Well, it lasted for a little bit, so all right, let me see here. Let me use your phone,
Excuse
Mom,
me.
since I started using the
Yeah,
hotspot of
sure.
mine earlier, just so we're not using up all of one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hotspot, turn it on. Spare with me, guys. I'm gonna try to get this on hotspot immediately. Okay, let me just see here. Huh. Uh, this taskbar is driving me nuts with that. So sorry about that, guys. I had a hard time looking for our device that we're using the hotspot for here. So let me try something here. I think my mom's phone needs to get charged here. So let me plug this in. Okay, so let's go. Mobile data on, hotspot on. And yeah, I could tell it definitely needs to connect to a better connection here. Okay, so do I still have my hotspot on? I could have swore I turned it off. Yeah, I turned it off. I don't know why that's still showing as an option. I apologize, guys. I got confused here with the Wi-Fi options here, which device had the hotspot on it at this moment. So apologize for that again. Promise you that's not going to happen anymore. So all right. So hopefully we shouldn't have any more technicalities here today or technical issues. So I think we were at Proverbs 2 here. My son, if you receive my words, treasure. Okay, so where you shall hear the understanding of Yahuwah. Okay, right here, verse 6. So from his mouth does the Masoretic say, right? Come knowledge. It's interesting. It says, for Yahuwah gives wisdom from his presence. So instead of mouth, it says presence, which I think Yahuwah purposely caused the scholars or the scribes that wrote the Septuagint to write presence. It was a way to almost it was a way to kind of show the Hebrew people that day his presence isn't separate from him. Because this is the way that the Kabbalists would read it. They would read presence as like, this Shekinah glory or whatever. So for the Septuagint translators to paraphrase his mouth, the word of Yahuwah, as his presence, it's literally going against what modern day Judaism would interpret as the presence or esteem or splendor. So I think that was very intentional by Yahuwah's Ruach there to cause them to write it that way. It was like intentional. So I find that pretty interesting that the Septuagint translators understood the word of Yahuwah is his presence. It's not separate. So anyway, treasure up salvation for them that walk uprightly. Big deal here for a lot of people that want to say, that he's ready to give salvation to everyone. That's not what this says here. It says he treasures up means stores up salvation for those that walk uprightly. So we might not be able to earn that salvation, but he's not freely giving it to everyone. If you don't want it, or if you don't want to obey him, you want to walk your own way, he's not storing that free gift up for you. So that's showing that obedience is part of this walk. Obedience is part of the relationship with him. So, yeah. And you can see that with any version, by the way. He preserves salvation of the righteous. Okay. The Vulgate kind of makes it ambiguous, but if you look at the Masoretic or Septuagint, it says he stores up salvation for. Oh, wait a minute. The Masoretic changed this.
Yeah. Stability or victory.
I want to look more into what they believed if they were anti-election. I would like to find out in Judaism today and in the Pharisees and all them if they believed in predestination or not. I would like to look into that because there's certain times where this happens where they change words like, how do you get wisdom from salvation? I mean, yes, Yahusha is the person wisdom, I get it, but this is supposed to be talking about salvation, deliverance, and you're replacing that, it seems like they're replacing it with the word wisdom, which completely changes the meaning of the verse. Go ahead, brother.
It seems like the Vulgate also changed something as well. You have the Masoretic saying he's a shield to those who walk in integrity. You have the Septuagint saying he will protect their way, referring to those who walk uprightly. However, you have the Vulgate saying he will protect those who walk in simplicity.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's just a translation error or something that because I've seen sometimes in modern versions they take integrity or rightly and they'll paraphrase it as simply or simplicity, they they almost try to modernize it too much. And to be fair, this Catholic Bible is like from 2009. So I wouldn't be shocked. Let me just see something really quick. I want to look at a older.
I wonder
do
though if they're referring to monks and nuns. He will protect those who walk in simplicity.
Yeah. Because simplicity is actually not a good thing sometimes in scripture. So that actually wouldn't even make sense because simplicity, like there's even scriptures in Isaiah where right who says, "You who love simplicity, you simple ones." Simple in the Old English or I shouldn't say Old English, but Middle English, simple sometimes meant stupid.
Or innocent. It could mean innocent.
Yeah, so that's a tricky word. So
It is a
because
tricky word.
it could mean like you simple ones, like
you
like 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 sometimes Yahuwah would say that to his people,
Yes.
like you love simplicity so much.
You would.
You don't want anything deeper. You just want on the surface.
Right.
And so yeah, I don't like the word simplicity there because it could be used as a negative or positive connotation. And I doubt simplicity was originally there. I think they're trying to modernize whoever wrote the 2009 CPV is trying to modernize the text there. Let me see here. I should have a RSV here. Let me see. I think at least this would be older than 2009. I know that for a fact. Let me just see here. Because I've seen the Catholic public domain version. They want to modernize things sometimes. Let me see here. They're kind of like the ESV, but like a little bit worse.
About monks.
Yeah. I was trying to get the joke you were saying about monks, but see, I don't know much about them. So they kind of went over my head, that joke, because I'm not versed about them. I know that they're very hermitish,
Secluded life. Yes.
they're kind of like a hermit.
Yes.
I know that.
Depending on the right, because some of them
Not owning anything, having bare minimum, right? Like one change of food, no money, like basically living at bare minimum or living in some simplicity.
Oh, okay, now I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Let me just see here. Verse 7 in the RSV. This is a different Catholic Bible, but it's a little bit more it's a little bit older, this translation, the RSV here. Let me just see here. So we're at what, Proverbs 2, verse, is it 7? That's interesting. Whoa, this is a lot different. Oh, that's why I'm in Psalms. Whoops, my bad. I'm like, wait a minute. Why is this talking about today? You're my son. I'm like, whoa, hold on. And that's a good verse. That's talking about Yahusha in the book of Psalms. But I'm like, whoa, okay, what are we doing here? All right. Okay, so yeah. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk blamelessly. Proof that it's a translation error, because the New Revised Standard Version, the NRSV, has blameless there instead of simplicity. So yeah, CPV, yeah, stop trying to modernize things. Okay, not a good idea. So this is proof, guys. This is proof that it's not the Vulgate. It's the translator doing that. So I'll put a link, by the way, in the description when this gets uploaded. Anyone that wants to check out the NRSV, it's free on you can find it free on Bible Gateway. It's an easily available Catholic Bible. It's called the New Revised Standard Version. It's very similar to Good News. It's very, very similar. I would say a little less modern than the Good News.
My versions have that simplicity.
Yeah, I think it's a translation error. It's got to be a translation error. So there's no way that Doesn't even make any sense because, like I said, simplicity could mean, there's too many definitions to that word. So I doubt they would have that in any type of manuscript in that verse. Yeah. So see here. So,
Yeah,
so
Dewey
yeah.
simplicity.
Oh, Dewey Rames does, huh?
Probably not,
Interesting.
but just in the translation.
Yeah. So the NRSV, I really like the fact it says blamelessly. That's actually pretty too of the NRSV. I always liked them. They're my favorite Vulgate, honestly, translation of the Vulgate. Especially when I used to test the Apocrypha a lot. So yeah, this is my physical copy here with apocryphal deuterocanonical books, the NRSV. So this has yeah. So what I like about this too is the footnotes. There's a lot of footnotes at the end of every page, so you can kind of look at all the cross references. But yeah, so yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So what I might try to do is just use my physical Vulgate. I'll take this CPV off for this type of reading because they're really screwing up on certain words. Yeah, so all right, so we'll just do that. We'll just do Masoretic and Septuagint for now. Okay. He guards the righteous ways of them that fear him. Again, that's something left out there. It just says he guards the ways of his set apart ones. Now, I guess you could infer that it would, obviously it would be those that fear him that are the Kadashim, but the fact that it's not there, them that fear him, is a little weird. Unless the Septuagint translators are paraphrasing Kadashim as them that fear him, which I would say then you're fine with the Masoretic, but that's the only way I could reconcile the Masoretic is that the Masoretic is giving you the word for word. The Septuagint is paraphrasing what a Kadashim is. Go ahead, brother.
The only issue with that is it's not what Kadashim means.
Yeah, So I would say that it's a little too vague for my taste in the Masoretic. There, it's a little too vague. Yeah, and there could be possibly a theology issue there where the Masorites would believe that they're going to be protected no matter what, whether they're wicked or not, because that's what Israel's taught today too. The state of Israel's taught you're his people no matter what, no matter how wicked you get, you're his people, and that they're not responsible for their. It's almost like determinism of Calvinism times like 100. Like, no matter what, you're his people. He's never going to ban you. You're his people. And, I think that could be why they leave out them that fear him, or why they change that to just Kadashim, because that leaves an ambiguity in the text, rather than those that fear him would be real, believers, versus those that just claim to be in him that are not in him. As Paul would say, not all of Israel is of Israel. Just because you're an ethnic Israelite doesn't mean you're his people. So that's kind of where I think Judaism, why they would want that, worded that way. It would go along with they're always going to be his people. And the Ashkenazis, pretty much, that's what they believe. They believe no matter what, they don't have to even practice the Torah. They're always going to be his people. But I think that's what's going on with that verse. Okay, so you shall understand righteousness and judgment shall direct all your course aright. For if wisdom shall come into your understanding, discernment shall seem pleasing to your soul. Two counsel shall guard you, and set apart under shall keep you, to deliver you from the evil way and from the man that speaks nothing trustworthily. That's interesting. That makes a little bit more sense. Okay, so it's saying that that the Torah is going to deliver you from the evil way and from the man that doesn't speak anything trustworthily. So like those that yes, those that are, perverse speech, or those that, speak falsely. So that's interesting. Um for who forsake Allah's who forsake right paths to walks in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in evils and delight in wicked perverseness, whose paths are crooked, their courses winding. No. To remove you from the straight path, or far from the straight path, a straight way, and to estrange you from the righteous purpose. Son, let not evil counsel overtake you. Who has forsaken, no. Who has for, forsaken the instruction of her youth and forgotten the covenant of Elohim? For she has fixed her house near death, her wheels near Hades with the giants. Interesting. I got to give the ESV credit here. It says the departed. That's talking about the demons, the departed spirits. So I got to give ESV two thumbs up there. You didn't just write, have the dead there. Because a lot of people misunderstand that verse. It's not talking about like regular dead humans. So I give the ESV as my stamp of approval on that verse in verse 18 there. None that go by her shall return, neither shall they take hold of right paths, for they are not apprehended of the years of life. Oh, go ahead, bro.
Can you go back to that verse real quick?
Yeah, this is the word Rapha.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
verse?
I'm confused with the LXX. That why would the giants be in Sheol in the LXX even? I thought they would be
Because
demons.
they're taking the word Rapha from the Hebrew and they're assuming because Rapha is the prefix for Raphaim, they're assuming that it's talking about the giants. So probably what happened was the Rapha got translated into Greek, and then they they assumed that it was referring to the giants because the Rapha are the spirits of the giants. They're the spirits of the Raphaim.
Right.
So
No, I get that, but why would they be in Sheol? I thought they
um
would be on Earth.
yeah, I mean, I guess because there's no place for them on Earth I mean, they roam around on Earth, but I don't think Earth can be their home because they were not really of Earth or of heaven. That's what I've heard. The explanation would be that they're in the abyss or in the deep parts of Sheol because there's no really place for them on Earth or in heaven. So now they're roaming the deepest parts of the Earth. They're roaming the abyss and the Tartarus and where all the Watchers are and stuff like that because there's no real like place for them. That's what I've heard. Like they're kind of like what we call today a ghost. They have no real designation. So that's the only way I could explain that, why it says giants there. That's the only explanation I really have for that. Um, but yeah, I think that's why the translators of the Septuagint probably chose giant for that verse. And so it's so just for those watching, Rapha is not like just a dead spirit or soul. It's a spirit of the giant. So that's why I'm not a fan of translations that just say the dead or her wheels are near the dead or the realm of the dead because it's way too generic. And it's not really being honest with what the Hebrew or the Greek says. And there's many times the King James does that, like many, 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 many times. They just translate Rapha as dead or deceased. So none that go by her shall return, neither shall they take hold of right paths, for they are apprehended the years of life, for they have gone into two paths. For if they have gone into two paths, they would have found the paths of righteousness easy. Huh. That's a convenient word to leave out. I wonder if that was intentional. I kind of wonder. What's weird to me is why would the Yahudim want to think it's hard? Or why would they take out the word easy? Now, there's actually a lot missing here, actually. So the Masoretic seems to say, so you will walk in the way of tube. It keeps the paths of righteousness. So it completely leaves out the part that, for if they had gone in the two paths, they would have found the paths of righteousness easy. That's weird. That's like, this is what I mean by, I say for Proverbs, I recommend really reading the Septuagint because there's certain things that are like way, way, way different. Way different. So, and right here, this is my favorite verse for any of those out there that are still pre-trib. This is a perfect example of how we know there is no such thing as a pre-trib rapture. Right here. For the upright shall dwell in the earth, and the set apart shall be left behind in it. So the set apart, the righteous are left behind, not the wicked. So I always use that when someone brings up like the whole pre-trib stuff. This is one of the verses I always go to. So here, so let's see, verse 22. No. The paths of wickedness shall perish out of the earth, transgressors shall be driven away from it. So this kind of reminds me of like the parable of this of what is the parable of the sower, where it talks about you got the tares in the wheat, or maybe that's the parable of the wheat. So the parable of the wheat would parallel with this. The paths of the wicked shall perish out of the earth,
Right.
and transgressors shall be driven away from it, meaning removed from the earth. So this to me perfectly parallels with Matthew 13, 36 to 43. So anyway, I don't know if anyone wants to mention anything before we go to the last. No. All right. So, Brother Yahusha, are you able to read chapter 3 for us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let's see if she's all right.
Okay. My son, forget not my Torah, but let your heart keep my words. For length of days and years of life and shalom shall they add to you. But not mercy and truth forsake you, but bind them about your neck. So shall you find favor and provide things honest in the sight of Yahweh and of men. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart and be not exalted in your own hakmah. In all your ways acquaint yourself with her, that she may acquaint yourself with him, that he may rightly direct your path. Be not wise in your own conceit, but fear Yahweh and depart from all evil. And shall there be health to your body and tooth keeping to your bones. Honor Yahweh with your just labors and give him the first fruits of your righteousness, that your storehouses may be completely filled with grain, and that your presses may burst forth with wine. Son, do not despise the chastening of Yahweh, nor faint when you are rebuked by him. Whom Yahweh loves, he rebukes and scourges every son whom he receives. Baruch is the man who has found Hakmah, and the mortal who knows prudence. For it is better to traffic for her than for treasures of gold and silver, and she is more valuable than precious stones. No evil thing shall resist. He is more valuable than precious stones. No evil thing shall resist him. He is well known to all that approach him, and no precious thing is equal to him in value. For length of days and years of life are in his right hand, and in his left hand are wealth and esteem. Out of his mouth proceeds righteousness, and he carries Torah and mercy upon his tongue. His ways are tube ways, and all his paths are shalom. He is a tree of life to all that lay hold of him, and he is a secure help to all that stay themselves on him, as on Yahuwah. Yahweh by Hakma founded the earth, and by understanding he prepared the Shamim. By his knowledge were the depths broken up, and the clouds dropped water. Son, let not pass from you, but keep my counsel and understanding, that your soul may live, and that there may be favor around your neck, and it shall be health to your flesh and safety to your bones, that you may go confidently in shalom in all your ways, and that your foot may not stumble. For if you rest, you shall not be afraid, and if you sleep, you shall slumber sweetly. And you shall not be afraid of alarm coming upon you, nor of approaching attacks of wicked men. Yahweh shall be over all your ways, and he shall establish your foot that you not be moved. Do not refrain from doing food to the poor whenever your hand may have power to help. Do not say, come back another time, tomorrow I will give while you are able to do today, while you are able today to do him too. For you know not what the next day will bring forth. Do not devise evil against your friend, living near you and trusting in you. Do not quarrel with a man without cause, lest he do you some harm. Do not procure the reproaches of bad men, nor shall you covet their ways. For every transgressor is unclean before Yahweh, neither does he sit among the righteous. The curse of Eluah is in the houses of the wicked, but the habitations of the just are Baruch. Yahweh resists the proud, but he gives favor to the humble. The Hakam shall inherit esteem, but the wicked have exalted their own dishonor.
Okay, so yeah, I think verse 5 is really important to look in the Septuagint version. A lot of people get I would say, get misunderstood about this concept in the Masoretic because it just says don't lean on your own understanding.
Mhm.
It's more than that. It's don't be exalted in your own understanding. So basically, you're not to get prideful in your own understanding of Scripture. You should be seeking about something. If you're not too sure about it, if you don't understand something, you don't want to be presumptuous. Instead of allowing your pride to come in and think you know everything, you should seek Yahuwah on it. The way the Septuagint words it, it makes sense. Lean is kind of like, you're leaning towards something. I just don't like the word lean in that verse. I think it gives off the wrong idea. Being exalted is like you're puffed up. Like, I know everything. I don't need to seek anyone on the matter. I don't need to seek counsel. That's being exalted. Go ahead, brother.
You're in which verse?
Verse 5 of chapter 3.
Okay, verse 6 also is kind of reads differently. It gives a different
Yeah.
hold on.
you have the Masoretic, in all your ways acknowledge him, right? And he shall direct your path. But then the Septuagint, it would say, in all your ways acquaint yourself with him, or the Charles Thompson, show it in all your ways. Where's the LXXE? There's another Septuagint version that says, okay, I like the ABP. In all your ways make him known, right? Rather than in all your ways acknowledge him. So the Masoretic would say in all your ways acknowledge him, versus the Septuagint in all your ways make him known. It's kind of like in one, it's like I see the Septuagint pointing more towards letting your actions show his word on you, that people can see him in you, versus the Masoretic, like in all your ways. I don't even know how you would read that. In all your ways, make him acknowledge him in all your ways.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is maybe it's talking about. I remember I used to interpret it as in all your ways acknowledge him, meaning like seek him in any plans you have, seek him. That's how I would always read it, like seek his counsel out on all your plans and he'll straighten your paths type of thing. That's the only way I could make sense of the way the Masoretic reads it. But then again, I think that would lead someone into a legalistic thing, like where you see today, quite frankly, a lot of us are falling into that legalism of, I'm not saying it's like wrong, but is it really necessary to seek Yahuwah in prayer on every little matter? And I think verses like this kind of give that idea off, just playing devil's advocate here. Like, I can see how people take this verse and then they have to pray about every little situation in their life, if you know what I mean. Like, it's like even when the word says what it says, they're like, I need to go to Abba. It's like,
Yeah.
he's telling you, he's speaking to you through his word. You don't have to always pray about something like so. But someone like looking at this version here, like from the ESV or whatever translation of the Masoretic, that's how they're looking at that. They're looking at that. Oh, well, I need to acknowledge him in all my ways. So I need to seek him in all my ways. You see what I'm saying? How that's kind of deceptive, because then you get that legalistic mindset of, even though he tells me to keep the Sabbath, I need to seek him whether I should keep the Sabbath. Like, it almost becomes an added guardrail where it's, he's telling you to do something in his word. You shouldn't have to ask him whether he's telling you something, because it's right there in front of your face. So I think, yeah, I definitely agree with you that the Masoretic one, like it, yeah, I really don't like the way the Masoretic one reads, because it gets people into that mindset of got to pray about every little thing. And knowing from experience how that's happened, it actually deters you. You get into almost a cowardice spirit where you're afraid of the unknown, rather than just, if you just took what the word black and white says and do it, you're doing as well. So, I know me and Brother Yahusha can relate to this. We've been in situations with people where we're trying to do Yahuwah's will, and the other party, because they have this understanding, they feel like they always need to take everything to Abba, like every situation, every single situation in their life. So you almost get into a cowardice spirit, because you're depending on prayer so much that when it's black and white in the word, you're doubting the word. And so that's why I say, that's why I'm not a fan of, the way the Masoretic reads here, because it would lead people to believe that, versus, like you said, always make him known, that he should make your path straight, meaning, through your fruit, you're making him known to others. Makes a lot more sense. Yeah, so I agree with you on that, bro. I don't I've always had like a funny feeling about the Masoretic version of verse 6. I've always had it just seems a little weird because it's like it would almost be leaning into that interpretation of pray about every little situation, pray about everything, before you do something, which I'm not saying is bad to pray. I'm just saying that there's certain situations we shouldn't have to pray about. If he's commanding something, you
That's
shouldn't
right.
have to seek his will on it. He's telling you to do something in his word, black and white. You do it. You don't pray about it because that is like, he gave us his word for a reason. So, there's like certain situations that should not require prayer. Keeping the Sabbath should not require prayer. Um, eating clean should not require prayer. Gathering together, whether you should gather with people on the Sabbath because it's required in the Torah, should not have to be prayed about. I mean, there's like I could go on a list on and on and on and on of things you should not have to seek him about because he's told you what his will is on those things. He's told you what to do. So I think Yahuwah expects us to be a little proactive, is all I'm trying to say, on certain issues. Like he says what he says. It's like the whole joke Rob Skiba said a while ago when he was like he was fresh out of the church seeking about flat earth, and he kept praying to Yahuwah to reveal to him the truth about it. And Yahuwah just kept giving him the answer. I said what I said. I said what I said in my word. I gave you the answer in my word. So we also have to realize there's a gray area between, seeking Yahuwah, pray without ceasing is all is a tube thing we're told to do, but we shouldn't have to pray for every little situation because Yahuwah does give the answer the majority of the time written in his word. So really that's the way I take prayer, is that prayer is a time of communion between ourselves and our Heavenly Father. And it's time there's a purpose to seek him out on certain matters, but we also have his word. We should know his word, and we should know if it's in there, if the situation we're wondering about is in his word spelled out for us, we should not have to go to prayer about it. I'll give you another example. Matthew 18 meeting. You shouldn't have to pray about whether you should have a Matthew 18 meeting in most cases. You should know that it's required. It's a commandment. It's, I'm just using examples, guys. I'm not trying to attack anyone. I'm just using examples of we can kind of get carried away with that whole thing. We can kind of get carried with the whole acknowledge him in all our ways. And, we start getting double-minded, praying about every little situation in our lives when Yahuwah gave us the answer in his word in a lot of these situations. That's all I'm trying to say. So, not trying to attack anyone. I'm not trying to be disingenuous. I'm just being honest. So anyway, but I do agree with Brother Yahusha here that verse 6 makes a lot more sense in the ABP translation of the Septuagint there. A lot more sense. Be not skilled of yourself, but fear Yahuwah, turn aside from evil. Okay, now I like this again, Septuagint. Be not wise in your own conceit. So what does that mean? That means it's not, now again, eyes, your own eyes. You could probably get that with the Masoretic, but for people that don't understand what it means to be wise in your eyes, it means you're trying to trust in your own sinful heart.
Mhm.
That's why this LXX says, do not be wise in your own conceit. Conceit is another word for deception. Okay, you're being conceited, or you're being mischievous, and that's why it says, "But fear Yahuwah and depart from all evil." So, don't deceive yourself, is what it's trying to say. Be careful not to There's other verses in Proverbs that talks about every man thinks his ways are right, but they lead to death, right? So it's kind of the same thing. Make sure that what you're doing is right in Yahuwah's eyes, not just in your eyes, basically. No. Then shall there be health to the body, your body, and tube keeping to your bones. So yeah, a lot of our health has to do with curses, guys. A lot of it has to do with curses. Honor Yahuwah with your righteous labors. Notice how it says righteous labors or works, okay, versus with your wealth. Depends on how you get that wealth, whether you can do that. Depends on it. Like, say someone, used to work in the mob, you can't really honor Yahuwah with that type of wealth. I'm just saying, I'm just using this. The Masoretic kind of keeps it generalized. It's like, with wealth, or maybe the ESV is the problem. They're modernizing it here. Honor Yahuwah with your wealth. Versus the ABP would say your righteous toils, okay, and dedicate him from your fruits of righteousness. So this is talking about the first fruits of your produce, or right now. What's interesting here is this is a little different. So the Masoretic would be talking about the first fruits of your actual first fruits, like actual fruits and vegetables, or grain, or food. The of righteousness. This would be spiritual. It's like physical offering versus spiritual offering. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, that your storehouses may be completely filled with grain, your press may burst forth with wine. Despise not the chastening of Yahuwah. Do not faint when you are rebuked of him. So that's interesting. Okay, so Yahuwah scourges everyone, every son whom he receives. So this would seem to say that Yahuwah, if he doesn't scourge you, then possibly he hasn't received you. According to the LXX, that seems what it would say. The Masoretic says whom he delights. So
Yeah,
it's a little different, but you still get the idea. For him to chastise you, it means you're a legitimate son or daughter. Baruch is the man who has found wisdom, and the mortal who knows prudence. Okay. There's bitter traffic for gold. Okay. So this is talking about the person wisdom again. No precious thing is equal to her, and it should be him, equal to him in value. I think that's a big deal, verse 15. So it says nothing is equal to him in value. Now, if you go to Philippians 2, chapter 2, you'll see how important that phrase is. Nothing is equal to him. So Yahusha says that he did not think it robbery to be equal with the Father. So it's saying that no one is equal to wisdom here in verse 15. So I think that's a big deal there. It's kind of like a oneness thing there. Life and existence are in his right hand. Okay. The law, mercy upon his tongue. His ways are two ways. All his paths are peaceful. He is a tree of life. That's a big deal. Go ahead, brother. I think you're still muted.
Whatever verse you just passed is missing half the verse in the Masoretic.
Oh. Yeah, it's 16. Out of his mouth proceeds righteousness. He carries law and mercy upon his tongue. Oh, wow. So that would expose the idea that Yahusha's only mercy, or only that, only mercy came by him. Because it's saying actually that he carries the law and mercy. So that would show that it's not just mercy, it's also righteousness. So I've seen people say, especially the Christians say, Romans claims that there was no mercy until Yahusha came to earth. There was no favor. There was just law, no favor. So that's kind of interesting. All his paths are peaceful. And that's not the world's peace. That's not a hippie, don't fight ever peace, He be a pacifist. It's talking about shalom, the Hebrew word shalom. You have to really go into the Hebrew and the Greek to understand that word there, what it means, that all his paths are peaceful. It's Yahuwah shalom, not the world's. Okay. He's a tree of life to all that lay hold upon him. He is a secure help to all that stay themselves on him as on Yahuwah. Now, what's interesting about that is the Targums, a lot of the times, will say the word of Yahuwah will be your helper, or my word shall be your help. No. All right. This is a minor difference, not a big deal, but the Masoretic will say Yahuwah here. The Greek Septuagint has Theos, so that would be Alua or Elohim, depending if the plurality of Elohim ever existed that early. So possibly the difference here would be Alua versus Yahuwah. It's just a minor difference. So, but it says here, Alua by wisdom founded the earth, and by prudence he prepared the heavens. So by Yahusha, Yahuwah founded the earth. Okay, so by understanding were the depths broken up. So it's saying by Yahusha, the depths were broken up, the cloud dropped water. So this is showing you that Yahusha was co-creator, co-eternal the whole time. My son, let them not pass you, but keep my counsel and understanding, that your soul may live, may be favor around your neck. Again, there's a part of verse 22 missing. And it shall be health to your flesh, safety to your bones. Okay. No. That you may go confident. No. In peace in all your ways, that your foot may not stumble. For if you rest, no, you shall be For if you rest, you shall be dismayed. If you sleep, you shall slumber, sleep sweetly. You shall not be afraid of alarm coming upon you, neither approaching attacks of wicked men. For Yahuwah shall be over all your ways, shall establish your foot, that you not be moved. Forbear not to do to the poor whensoever your hand may have power to help them. Say not, come back another time tomorrow. I will give while you are able to do too, for you know not what the next day will bring forth. Devise not evil against your friend living near you and trusting in you. Be not ready to quarrel with a man without a cause, lest he do you some harm. That's the same concept, right? Matthew 5, Mom, what does it say? Do not be angry with your brother without a cause. Mm-hmm. Same, quarrel, angry. Procure not reproaches of bad men, neither do you covet their ways. For every transgressor is unclean before Yahuwah, neither does he sit among the righteous. The curse of Alua is in the houses of the wicked, but the habitations of the righteous are Barut. Yahuwah resists the proud, but he gives favor to the humble. The wise shall inherit esteem, but the wicked shall have exalted dishonor. Very interesting. And you can kind of take that spiritually and physically, because if you think about it, right, in the resurrection, we're given esteemed bodies while the world is not. So esteem, dishonor, garments of honor, dishonor, So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the study today. And I'm sorry there wasn't more of us on today, but hopefully this was edifying to you guys. Again, I'm going to keep my promise to you guys. I'm going to link to the NRSV for those of you guys that want to look into that, for that one verse that had blameless instead of simplicity. So yeah, always be careful, guys, your translations, because we can't always blame the manuscripts. Sometimes these English translators are not too well versed in Hebrew or Greek or Latin. So always be on guard, guys. And as I always say, as a person I used to consider my brother would say, go home, read your Bible. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Great rest of Yahuwah Shabbat. No. And see you next time. Yahuwah willing. All right.